Today, I'm really excited to welcome Misha Archer to our little show today, talking about books. And I was really thrilled to see What's New Daniel come out after knowing about Daniel Finds a Poem and Daniel's Good Day. So this is a treat to have another one in this series. Just absolutely lovely, lovely stories. So could you tell me a little bit about how you created the character Daniel, and will there be more stories?
I created Daniel in my belly because it was based on my son, when he was a little boy, he would ask everyone the same question and get a new answer from everybody. So he was my inspiration for that. And I love the idea of a book that collects something throughout the book and then becomes, like he does a little poem in the end. So that's sort of the each of the books kind of has that same format, which is fun, I think.
And to have books that have just this lovely storyline, but then also that piece of creating the poetry from what you're taking in the moment. It's an added bonus to it all. Will you write more, or is it just a trilogy?
We'll see. I have well I'm I work with an editor, and she was the one who kept saying, do another one, do another one. But we're kind of working on another series. I don't know if you know of Wonder Walkers. And actually tomorrow Wind Watchers is coming out, which is kind of a sister book to Wonder Walkers. So we're kind of going that direction. Daniel might show up again. We'll see.
Well, that's interesting you bring that one up because I was going to say what a huge accomplishment to receive the Caldecott Award. Tell me about that experience of getting that notification of winning the Caldecott.
Well, I was actually here in Costa Rica when I got the call. My first reaction was like, they have it wrong. It can't be, because I just felt like I wasn't ready because I was pretty new, in the whole book world. And but then, I got used to it and I love it. And I cannot believe that I share having won this with so many important people. It just knocks me out that my favorite illustrators and authors
Yeah.
are we're together in this. And I think it gave me a certain amount of confidence in my work. I also love that it's chosen by librarians, which, they're my heroes. They
Mm.
really are wonderful people. And so to me, it's the best award in the world to win.
That's really nice. That's really nice. In this newest book, What's New, Daniel, the publisher describes it this way. Readers are invited into Daniel's blossoming world, encouraging them to appreciate all the wonderful new things in their own lives, both big and small. And I just couldn't help but think what an important, critical reminder to be present in the moment and something we all need to hear today, regardless of our age, and to be curious. And I'm a fairly new grandparent, so I just love seeing that relationship between the grandfather and the grandson. So tell me, like, why this particular storyline right now for you? Was there something that pushed you to want to write that?
Um, I think I was looking for another character because we had met Daniel's mother and his little sister and his grandmother. But I also watched my kids get to know my parents in a whole different way, because I didn't have grandparents close by or didn't have grandparents on my mother's side. So it was a wonderful relationship because I could see that, as a parent, you've got so much on your mind, but a grandparent is just completely present for finding out what's new with little Daniel. So I liked that. And I also, in all my Daniel books, I kind of like to give Daniel the freedom to wander on his own, but always know that, there's a parent near enough by, but that he can explore on his own. So I kind of feel like it's a wish of mine. I'm kind of wishing it to come true, that the world would be a safe place for our kids.
My grandson's going to be 2 in May, and that's one of the things that I noticed the lovely way his mom raises him is that he has that freedom to play and explore, but she is the safety net. She's always close enough by. And when I'm visiting and I'm watching him, he'll glance up and just, have that affirmation that there's mom, and then right back to his all imagination. And
Yeah,
what a gift to give a child that freedom to just
yeah.
dig in the dirt and to play and get the hose and everything he's doing. So I think these stories, like Daniel, are just so critical for all of us to just kind of pause for a minute and get back to just being present. Your collage work obviously is extraordinary, and we use the whole book approach which is an approach that came from an art educator from Eric Hall Museum to really take the book as a piece of art and to teach the children to slow down and pay attention to all the artistic moves that the illustrator is making to add that extra meaning to the text and add more value. So as an author and an illustrator, I'm always curious, do you does the text come to you first, or do you actually see images first, or just a simultaneous process within your brain and you don't see that separation?
Um, it kind of different with each book, but with Daniel, definitely it was the words first because I was just determined to start writing children's books. So I really studied all the books that were important to me as a teacher and as a parent. And so I was just kind of studying what makes a book work and what makes a kid want to read it and turn the page and get to the end. So definitely in the Daniel books, I was starting with the words. But when I do my own pictures, I can change the words because
Mm,
I feel like, oh, this is already basically told in the pictures. So um, I can change it right up to the end.
that's right. Yeah, there's an added benefit of being creative in both departments that you have that luxury. Um, so you taught kindergarten for many years? Is
I
that
did, yes, yes.
interesting? Yeah. So I'm sure after reading hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books that you definitely had an idea of what works well.
Yeah, and I also like I realized that, I'm not sure everyone who hasn't worked in a classroom realizes this as an illustrator, that you're making a book that someone has to see from across a room, the kid who's sitting in the back. So your pictures have to be really strong, almost like a logo. But then for me, what was important as a little girl when I was reading books was to look very closely at the pictures. So I'm constantly finding this balance between keeping a really important, clear composition and then going into the details that hopefully, when a kid is sitting in a lap, they'll notice too. So
And the advantage over the course of my career is that the intimacy that we used to feel was with picture books in particular, that sense of being in the lap or just very close proximity isn't as critical now because we all tend to use like document cameras, so we magnify the book. So the book now is like wall size, basically. Yeah, and initially I thought when that technology came about, I was sort of like a little bit of a snob about it. And I thought, oh no, no, that's just taken away from this little physical
Mhm.
proximity. And then once I did it that way, I realized, my goodness, it made every book a big book for everybody. So when I
Exactly.
watch my students in school, because we do look at the book as a total art form and we're analyzing every aspect, they can spend the longest time on one picture book, even the preschoolers, because they're seeing everything so closely in the details and then
Right.
want you to turn back and look under the book jacket and end papers, all of it. So it's just really magnificent to see them truly constructing meaning as a collective group
Mhm.
versus
That's
just this, passive experience.
right. Oh yeah. No, it's really a portal. You're opening a door into another world. So you
Yeah.
want it to be, you really want it to be as rich as you can get it. So,
Exactly. So knowing that we're going to be issuing most of these videos out, at least for my school population for the summertime, um, this book is just perfect to encourage families again to just take summer to slow down, be present, spend time in nature, listen, observe that stillness, I think is so critical, even solitude. So we really thank you for creating books that send that message. But I'm also curious, do you have any recommendations for ways families can incorporate art experiences into their summer plans?
well, I make a lot of my papers. So I spend a lot of time just creating. It's like my kindergarten part of my work where I just play. And I think kids would probably love to do, one of the projects I love to do is do crayon rubbings. So you just take your crayon and take off the paper, and then you do rubbings of leaves or any kind of textures you're finding. And then after you've filled your paper with all these rubbings, you can then use watercolor over it and you get a great resist. And then if you want to use that paper, you can collage with it, but you could also make yourself a little notebook so that you could do some observation. And one thing I remember doing in a summer camp that I worked at was the kids would go to one spot that was like 4 feet by 4 feet. You even actually, or you could give them a yarn string and they just put it around them. And then with their five senses and for about maybe 20 minutes, they would just observe closely everything that's in that little circle, not only drawing it and but also writing about it and about using their five senses to gather it in. And another thing that I love to do is make my own stamps. So this would be something fun for kids. This is just cardboard glued onto a piece of wood, and it makes a great stamp. Or you can just use thin cardboard and cut out little shapes, and then you can just fold up a piece of fabric and put paint on it and make it a little bit wet, and then that's your stamp pad. And I've made tons of, here's some of my paper that I stamped. This is also tissue paper is wonderful to work with too. You can make tissue paper layers. And this is just done with a fork. So
Oh, wow, look at that.
endless the possibilities, but yeah, they
Those are,
can.
yeah, wonderful recommendations for families and grandparents, everybody that could just really slow down and enjoy art experiences regardless of how old you are. So, Misha, I just want to thank you for spending time with us and for especially, being an educator for your first part of your career, but now educating all of us with these beautiful messages and creating such beautiful art that makes us slow down and be present. So I thank you for that.
Thank you so much for having me.